Eskom says it anticipates a minimum of stage 2 load shedding during the winter months, but cautions that outages could possibly reach stage 5. Now, Group CEO Dan Marokane announced this earlier during a media briefing. He says the power utility plans to keep losses to a minimum.
The likely scenario from our assumptions is that load shedding will be maintained within stage 2 at most. In the extreme case where the unreliability increases, that component may go occasionally stage 5, but we really think that on the basis of what we see, the performance of the fleet, load shedding will stay within stage 2 from a planning perspective. This is on the back of a decrease in terms of the baseline unreliability capacity reduction of 1,000 megawatts, which is what we use for our baseline assumptions there.
A broader conversation on the state of the grid going into the winter season is with energy expert Mr. Mthunzi Luthuli. Mr. Luthuli, thank you so much for your time and for joining us. What would you say are the key factors that are contributing to Eskom's ability to contain load shedding at stage 2 this winter?
Good evening, Katlego, and good evening to the viewers. Katlego, we should not be having load shedding in South Africa. And the reason we have load shedding is twofold. One is Eskom's poor performance. But the second reason really is that this is actually a deliberate action by Eskom and the politicians. Eskom needs to be painted as an organization that cannot supply electricity for South Africa and therefore justify bringing in renewable energy IPPs into the power generation space. This is sadly the game that is being played, and it comes at a huge cost to the economy and a huge cost to South Africans. I mean, we have South Africans that have died in hospitals, in homes with where they were using oxygen machines, etc. It's very, very sad. Eskom has a generation capacity of 43,000 megawatts, 43,000 megawatts, and yet we are failing. We are told that we can't meet peak generation in winter of between 32 and 34,000 megawatts. It's criminal.
I mean, when you speak of it being deliberate, we've heard the leader of the EFF saying that the fact that we've got energy and electricity during this time is also deliberate, all in the wake of the coming elections on the 29th of May. Does this then speak to your notion of it being deliberate when they do switch off the lights?
Yes, it's definitely deliberate. Like I say, there's a game that is being played here. Eskom must be painted as a company that is failing, and therefore we must bring in the private sector, and that is what is happening here. And if you look at the Eskom numbers, the UCLF, the unplanned capacity loss factor, which basically represents generation units that are not generating at any particular point in time. That figure has constantly, over the last, 2, 3, 4 years, has constantly been around 15,000 megawatts, okay? That's the capacity that is just lying there, not units that are lying there that are not being refurbished and brought back online. The question that must be asked is, why are those units not being repaired or refurbished and brought back online? That's where the criminality is.
But in this then being deliberate, to what extent would the ruling party cut off their nose in spite of their faces when this has become such a big issue in South Africa economically? It has become such a big issue in South Africa with regards to the electorate that will be going to the polls on the 29th of May.
Yeah, I am unsure whether they actually foresaw how big this problem will be for them when it comes to elections. But the reason they're doing it is economic interests. it's economic interests. The people that have influence on the politicians have economic interests to get into the generation sector in this country and make money. And so they have they are working with the politicians to make that happen. That's what's happening.
So how sustainable then is this plan to limit load shedding to stage 2 throughout the winter months?
Look, I think it's sustainable. As I say, refurbishing the units that are offline, that are lying idle, and bringing them back online is something that can be done. From a technical perspective, there is no reason why that cannot be done. And so, as I say, it can be done. They can bring those units back online and operate them. So, yes, it can be. In fact, we should not even have the stage 2 load shedding during winter. The question that must be asked is, why are we even having stage 2 load shedding?
So they do say that there's a potential of load shedding reaching stages up until stage 5 in the most extreme cases. You're saying that the possibilities are not there?
Well, the possibilities are there because, they can do it if they want for the reasons and purposes that I've just explained. So, but the point that I'm making is that if Eskom was serious and they were really and truly about operating the units properly and doing their work without any political influence or business influences from outside, we would not be having load shedding in this country.
All right, Mr. Luthuli, thank you so much for your time and for your inputs this evening. That was energy expert Mr. Mthunzi Luthuli giving us his take on stage 2 blackouts during the winter season and what we could potentially see thereafter after the elections. Well,